Good afternoon. Our guest today is Catherine Bragg, the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs. She is here to brief on the humanitarian situation in Sri Lanka before my regular press briefing. The press conference by the Special Representative for the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict, Radhika Kumaraswamy, has been postponed until tomorrow in order to accommodate this briefing today. So Ms. Kumaraswamy will be our guest tomorrow. And before I turn the floor over to Ms. Bragg, I just want to flag the remarks made in Brussels earlier today by the Secretary General on Sri Lanka as part of his press conference remarks on the Somalia conference. But we've excerpted those, and those are available upstairs as well.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. I have suggested that I do a noon briefing today, largely because I think yesterday when I was exiting the Security Council and had the press encounter, it was very, very short, and I could see that there was quite a bit of interest and further questions that wanted to be raised and answered by myself, and there just wasn't sufficient time for that. So having seen that, I suggested that perhaps I would do the noon briefing today, and thank you very much to DPI for allowing us to do that. Before we get to the questions and answers, let me just make a few brief statements. Yesterday I said that the humanitarian situation in the Vani, the area that's called the Vani in northern Sri Lanka, is critical. I think all of you probably have seen the map of the small strip of land where quite a number of IDPs had been congregated for the last little while, and certainly we still estimate that there are about 50,000 remaining in there. The area is very small, roughly about the size of about 5 square miles, and we certainly continue to have reports of fighting, and yesterday there was report of heavy fighting. So you can imagine that as a consequence, it is not that difficult to imagine that there will be casualties as well as dramatic humanitarian situation. The government of Sri Lanka indicated that as of today, 103,000 IDPs have left that area. We hope that those numbers are accurate, but we have no way of verifying that. We continue to have reports that heavy weapons is used, and of course we continue to have reports that the LTTE is preventing people from leaving that area and using the civilians as human shields. Both of those, on both the government side and on the LTTE side, is against international humanitarian law in terms of protection of civilians. We are seriously concerned about the malnutrition and health situation of the people remaining in there, as well as the ones who have come out. It has been a very horrendous situation in this small area ever since the major offensive that started in late January. As you all know, the chef de cabinet, Mr. Nambiar, was in Sri Lanka and only returned earlier this week, and he and the government had agreed to discussing suitable modalities to enable the UN and the ICRC to make contact and to secure the release of civilians from the area. We are asking for access to the conflict zone to assess the humanitarian situation and to be able to provide a relief supply in a meaningful way. And we are also asking to be present in the screening centers and to be able to witness the screening procedures of this large number of people that have exited the conflict zone and are currently on the way to the IDP camps, mostly in Vavonia and in Jaffna. I hope that as I mentioned geographic points that you probably have those in your heads, so that I wouldn't need a map to do it for you. Our current information is that there are 26,000 new IDPs that have arrived in the transit sites in Vavonia and in Jaffna. So the total camp population is now up to 95,000 people, up from 80,000 that reported yesterday. There are quite a number of issues in regards to the camp, the camps in the plural. Obviously, with an expected influx of over 100,000 people, and maybe even more, in the coming days and weeks arriving in the camps, we definitely will be needing extra campsites to be able to accommodate. We are currently in discussion with the governments as to identification of new campsites, and we have urgently asked the government to put that as a priority. We are also encouraging the government to consider moving of existing population in the camps to host families and to find alternative sites outside of Vavonia in order to be able to accommodate the new arrivals. We think that it is in the interest of the government of Sri Lanka and the IDPs to be able to leave these camps as soon as possible. And we will continue to encourage the government to work towards that end. You will have noted that the Secretary General has made a statement today about the sending of a humanitarian team to the conflict area. This was as agreed to between Mr. Nambiar and the President of Sri Lanka when Mr. Nambiar was in Colombo. It has been a few days now, and we have not seen any movement, and we hope that there will be movement very soon, so that in fact the team would be able to go to the area. I think I will stop here now and take your questions.
Let's start with Bill.
Two things. One, what's the basis for your estimate about the 50,000 people still trapped? How do you arrive at that number? And when you say about the last point you made about the humanitarian monitoring team, what movement are you looking for? What's the benchmark to send them? How many people would go? What would be their mission? Who would lead it? Sort of give me the details of what's planned there.
In terms of your question, all of these are estimates, obviously. We don't have exact figures. We derive the numbers from what we know before the offensive in January, when we estimated the population that was in the Kananochi area to be around 220,000 to 250,000. That population has been now squeezed into the strip. In January they were dispersed over a larger area. Those numbers we have a fair level of confidence in, because we're deriving those from WFP food aid recipients. Of course, between January and now, there's varying estimates of how many people in fact have left the whole Kananochi area. But if in fact, and our understanding and the number we know for sure is the ones in the camps, and as of yesterday, as I mentioned, it was 80,000. Today is 95,000. So if we go by yesterday's number of 80,000 people, it basically means that there are either a large number of people in transit who have exited according to the government of Sri Lanka, and then whatever would be the number left will be number still in the strip. So that's how we got to the
250 was there originally. 50 is still there, so 170 to 100 between 170 and 200 have gone somewhere.
There are 80,000 in the camps.
Right. 50 still trapped.
Yes, so that's
130.
And the government says that 103,000 people are currently in transit from the exit point to the camps. Okay. So your second question. Sorry, I will get to them in order. The humanitarian team will be led by the humanitarian coordinator, Neil Brun, and it will consist of the team that you were talking about.
What's his name? I'm sorry.
Neil Brun. And he will be, the current plan is that he will be assisted by the agency reps that are currently in country. But before a humanitarian team could actually go to the area, there would be an advanced security team from UNDSS.
And you're waiting for clearance for that team to go? That
Yes,
security
that's
team?
right.
And you're waiting for that from the
condition.
government?
Yes, that's right.
You haven't gotten it yet?
Not at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, talk radio.
Ms. Bragg, the number of campsites that you're requesting additional, has the UN identified those campsites where they're going to be? Are you waiting for the government to come up with a plan? Is there already a number